Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Teach Me Tuesday. Today's episode is brought to you by Unicorn and Pugner, and we'll hear a little bit about them later on in the show. As always, I'm your host Beedub, and with me is Ursinity. Hey Ursi, how are you doing?
As not always. Yeah.
Well, as always, as of now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're always. I guess I'm always every other week. Let's see. How am I? It's 2018, so I feel like I should have some grandiose statement, but I don't really have anything. 2018 Ursi is basically the same as December 2017 Ursi as of yet.
Okay.
My resolutions have not kicked into full gear, so I'm not a better person or a different person. But I'm just happy to be recording. I was trying to think of resolutions. I don't normally do resolutions. But I was trying to think of something podcast related, like, I want to not miss a show or something. But I do that anyway. So that's not a very interesting resolution. I couldn't think of any like podcast resolutions specifically. I have good. We'll see. We'll see how much I maintain the resolutions I did make, though. I didn't do the gym resolution. I know, because that's like the common one that everybody does. They're like, I'm gonna go to the gym and I'm gonna like lose 10 pounds or I'm gonna gain muscle or whatever. I did not make that resolution because I'm not. That'd be like making a resolution I would know I would immediately break.
Right.
So there's just no point to it.
Yeah, those ones are always tough to keep. I think I've made that resolution every year and I've never done it ever. I've never sat down and gone, oh yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do. But I've always thought, maybe this year I actually will go to the gym. It never happens though. I'm just kind of lying to myself at this point, thinking it's going to happen. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the year I'll actually do it.
Yeah, I've been good about it before. I've never gone to the gym, but I used to run every day, and I used to I played tennis all through high school, so I used to be not athletic, but I used to be active. And in the last year, I've just gotten really lazy. I stopped running because it got cold. The thing about it's like this in a lot of places, but New York especially, is that we have such crazy fluctuation in weather, in that in the space of 1 week, you can experience all four seasons. In certain times of the year, it's it'll be snowing one day, and then the next day it'll be raining, and the next day it'll be super hot, and then all the snow will melt. So having outdoor hobbies is a real hassle, because it's freaking cold, dude. I don't want to go running. It's 12 degrees. This is not a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I definitely became less active when I lived in Canada, for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It doesn't get that cold in the UK. You can still kind of walk around. You don't really want to go outside that much, but it's still fine. Whereas when I was in Toronto, it's real cold. And I'm just I do not want to go outside. I wouldn't go outside for days if I didn't have to.
Yeah, but that's me. My main resolution for 2018, other than my Dota resolution, which we'll get into whenever you want to do that, my main resolution was I've been studying Korean for, I don't know, maybe 6 months or something at this point, but I've been very casual about it because it's not like I'm taking a class. And so I've just been super lazy in procrastination city. So I'm going to do that a little more seriously this year and try to do at least, 30 minutes a day, of actual lessons rather than slacking off. We'll see. I don't know how long that resolution is going to last, being that I have no motivation. I should say I have motivation, but I don't have external motivation. It's all just me. I don't take a class. I don't speak it to anybody. I don't even want to. It's just more I just do this for fun. Yeah. So we'll see if I can actually maintain that. I doubt it. No, I'm going to do great. Anyway, okay, let's...
I was going to say, did you do anything special to bring in the new year?
No, I went radio silent, and I actively avoided doing things. I went to a family thing for a few hours, but it was one of those things that you go to and you don't know what it's going to be like until you're there. So my impression, because I was going to my mom's side of people that I'm vaguely related to, but you just grow up with them, so you just know them. Yeah. They're the people that you call aunts, but they're not actually your aunt.
Yeah.
So I went to that, and I was expecting it was going to be a small thing with a dozen people or whatever. and it turned out it was like this huge thing, and I didn't know anybody except like the like people who owned the house, and then like my vaguely related great aunt or whatever. And it was very like, it was all small children and parents that clearly like they congregated. They were like, we can't bring our annoying, loud, small children to our parties, so let's all bring them to one place. That way, like it's like a mutually assured destruction.
Right.
And so I was just not prepared for that at all. And I like kids, but I'm not good with really little kids. Like they were all like 7 like 7 and under, which is not like the fun age of kid.
Yeah,
like,
that sounds hectic.
Yeah, like I'm great. Like, I mean, having like taught lessons and stuff, and spent a lot of time in middle schools and high schools. I'm great with like middle schoolers and high schoolers. Mm-hmm. But man, really little kids, they have too much energy. It's exhausting. So yeah, that was my surprise. But luckily there was wine there, so like that made it a bit more bearable.
Yeah.
I started drinking once they took out the party blowers. You know, those like I don't even know what they're actually called. I just call them party blowers. The things that like roll out and make those loud sounds. Once they found those, I was like, I need wine.
Yeah. That sounds painful, honestly.
Yeah, it is what it is. What did you do for the holiday?
I did have plans to go to a friend's place, but I've had like quite a bad cold, and I just didn't really want to like travel up and down the country for it. So I ended up staying at my parents' place, and my brother was having a house party here, so that was cool. But it's kind of weird, like. The village my parents live in has some like quite strange like New Year's Eve traditions, and everyone in the village congregates in some car park to watch this guy like almost set himself on fire. It's quite fun. It's odd. It's maybe one of the oddest things.
That sounds fun as long as nobody dies.
No, he nearly set himself. Like 2 years ago, he did set himself on fire by accident. This year he was very close to, but he didn't, so he was fine. Last year he took a break off.
He's batting like 300 at this point, or like 600 at this point. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
What's the point though? Like, how does he almost set himself on fire?
So like he dresses up as kind of like a Viking, and then builds himself like a pyre and lights the stairs on fire to go to like Valhalla. It's something to do with like what the history of the village was here. I've been to this thing a couple of times. I still don't grasp the whole story, because it's all kind of like rhyming as well. It's like his poem. He does like a rhyming kind of poem, and then everyone's just kind of like, get on with it. We want to watch you nearly set yourself on fire.
Yeah, we want to watch you almost die.
Yeah, pretty much. So everyone's just kind of like standing around in the cold, waiting for him to finish his poem, kind of sneaking the hip flasks out, like, and then like just drinking whilst he's doing that, and then he nearly sets himself on fire and goes in his like man-made pyre coffin thing, and then
did somebody do this before this person? Like, is this a tradition, or did this guy just one day decide like this is something that he's gonna be the pyre guy?
So it's just him who's decided this. But it's been going on for quite a few years. I actually don't, because my parents haven't long lived in this village. They've lived here for about 3 years now, I think. It's been 3 New Years they've been here. But apparently this has been going on for a while, and now it's kind of like the village tradition. Who knows? If he stops doing it, maybe we need a new pyre person. I don't know. But yeah,
who's going to take up that mantle?
Yeah, I don't know. But it's good fun. It's quite funny. So yeah, that was my New Year's Eve. We had like 2 computers set up in the corner, so everyone was kind of like playing PUBG whilst others were sitting around and drinking and stuff. I don't know, it was pretty good. It was pretty chill. It was nice.
Sounds like fun. Small is always better. So I'm gonna take over the host role momentarily.
We should stop talking.
Let's talk about Dota resolutions.
Yes, let's hop straight into that.
So what's yours?
I was gonna say, a lot of mine are kind of like mindset ones, I would say.
Okay.
So like, I think one of my biggest ones is like to stop myself falling into the mindset of like blaming other people.
That's an impossible task. I appreciate
difficult,
the effort.
but there's going to be an effort not to do that, because I will kind of like go into a game, even though I've made like a ton of mistakes, I'll go, oh, it was that, you know, the stupid nature's prophet
because he
farm,
or she
like,
did blank.
AFK farming. That's it. That's what lost us the game. So I'm going to try not to do that.
Good luck.
Then,
I feel like I should make that resolution as well, but I don't see that happening. I'll be honest.
Maybe everyone should take
Thursday
on
would
that
not be the
resolution.
same show if I embraced that resolution.
And then my other one, I have a couple. My second one is to stop panic picking.
That's a good one.
So I should have at least kind of like a couple of heroes selected out that, you know, if I'm going to play support, I'm going to play this. If I'm going to play a core, I'm going to play this. I should just, because sometimes I'll go in and be like, oh, I'll fill in whatever role. I'll just pick when we're drafting, and then it's a mess, and then I just panic pick something stupid which doesn't make any sense, and then I'm like, oh, this is the wrong choice, and then you're stuck in a, like, I don't know, 55-minute game playing this hero which you didn't really want to play, and you just kind of panic picked it and it didn't make any sense. So yeah, stop panic picking. That's my second one.
I find myself doing that also. Like there's something that, even though losing like a few gold is really not a big deal most of the time, there's a mental aspect to it that's like, oh my god, I lost 16 gold, like I'm gonna lose now. It's like when in reality I would have had 50 gold left over anyway, because like all the item price changes have messed me up so much, and I always have money left over. Like I find myself, especially on support, I always have like 95 gold or 50 gold or something, and it's like,
really,
I don't know what to do with this. 95, 45, and 50 are the three amounts that I find myself having a lot. And it's like, well, I could buy a branch, or I could buy another clarity, but like I already have 2 or 3 clarities. Like it's just overkill at this point. So I find myself having too much money, and I panic pick for sure. Or I pick like, well, let's see, what's the word for this? My panic picks a lot of times, the hole I fall into is I will counter, like, I'll focus too much on like 1 or 2 of the enemy picks and counter that, but ignore the rest. Like I just played a Skywrath game yesterday where I just like panic picked Skywrath because they first to'd Invoker and Enchantress, and then they had a Sniper. And it's like, well, Skywrath is freaking terrible against Sniper. Like I just fed the Sniper. Like, I mean, granted, this was like the most uneven balanced game I've ever seen in my entire life, but that's beside the point. But it was one of those like myopic picks, I guess, where I was like, oh, this is good against Enchantress and it's good against Invoker, so I guess I'll just pick it. And then it ended up just being a terrible hero. Yeah. But it was unranked anyway, so, you know, such is life.
Well.
And it was, I don't want to complain too much, but I've been on both the winning end and the losing end of games in unranked that are just horribly balanced from the get-go. Like in this game, the enemy team had 2 like top 500 leaderboard Divine 5 players. Okay. And then another Divine 1 player, and then like two like non-calibrated people. And then my team had me at Divine 1, and then one other guy that's like Divine 0. And then we had like somebody that was like in like low legend or like one of the lower brackets. Yeah. And then two uncalibrated people. I was like, there's no way this was even remotely balanced. Like the enemy team, 2 of their players have more stars than our entire team combined. Like it was just nonsense. And they were 2-stack. So like, of course they were, let's see, the Sniper was 24, 3, and 12. And then the Clockwork support was 7, 3, and 29. So it's just like, of course they won. Like there's no possible way we were going to win that game. It's just painful. I've had a lot of those recently. I've
been seeing quite a few people complain about unbalanced teams and stuff. I guess it's like the new, maybe it's like, I don't know, the whole new ranked system messing things up, I guess. I don't know. Hopefully they can fix that though.
Yeah, I mean, there's always something to complain about. Like whenever things are balanced, then people complain about long queue times, and then whenever people are getting games, then they complain about balance. So it's, you know, you just, you know, you got to deal with the hand you're dealt. But it is. I've been noticing it more often. That being said, it's better than, I don't know, maybe it's not better than having long queues, because for a while people on Reddit were complaining, and I was complaining as well about I would sit in queue for like 10 minutes and not get a game. And and it was just ridiculous. And then that hasn't happened to me recently. I've been having like regular like 5-minute queues, but my game's balance has been worse. So I don't know if they made a change or if it's just like confirmation bias, but it's been weird. Such is life.
Yeah, a couple of days ago, the queue times were ridiculous. I can't, like, maybe it was just crazy. I actually haven't played Dota for like a week, but because I was going to play the other day and the queue time was just crazy. So I was like, oh, well, I'll play Skyrim
I had
instead,
a couple days of that. Where I was just like, I was forcing myself to play ranked just to get a game. Like this was only happening to me in unranked. And I ended up just playing ranked because I was like, at least I can play Dota. Like, and also fortunately I won, which is
hey, that's good.
I was gonna say lucky, but you create your own luck in terms of Dota. But it was just ridiculous that I was like, I guess I have to play ranked now, like because you just can't play unranked. Like I sat in queue for literally 30 minutes.
So what are some of your New Year's resolutions?
My Dota resolution is I want to hit Divine 5 by the end of the year. I think it's a achievable resolution. My original goal was to hit 6K, but Divine 5 will get me close enough to 6K, and with the recalibration stuff, I don't know how that's going to work around like numerical MMR. So at the very least, I want to hit Divine 5. I don't even necessarily want like I don't have any like crazy aspirations to like get on the leaderboards or whatever, but I would like to get Divine 5, and I feel like that is like a good resolution is something that is doable. Like some people make resolutions that, like we were talking about earlier, like you can't keep. Like if my resolution was like to get top 100 on a leaderboard, like there's just no possible way I could do that. Like, unless I did the Swindle Melons method and just, like, shut off from society and, like, only played Dota for, like, a year, maybe I could get on leaderboards, like, high ranked. But even that is, like, a ridiculous goal. And, like, I don't exactly plan on doing, like, sitting in my room for the next 365 days and playing Dota and nothing else. So, my reasonable resolution is to hit Divine 5.
Okay.
I think it's doable. It'll be hard, but I think it's doable.
What are you now? Are you Divine 1? Divine 2?
Yeah, I was very close to Divine 2. I was like one game away from it, I think, like approximately. But then I lost 8 games in a row. So God. Now I've been winning a few recently, so I'm almost back to where I was. But I am. I took a big hit. My climb took a big hit. But yeah, I think I'll probably be. I think I'm like maybe three games away from Divine 2, and then eventually, each star is what? Each star is like 175 MMR, I think. So you just need to be every time you're plus 7 games, you'll get a star, give or take. So
yeah,
I think that means let's see. That means I'd have to be like positive 30 for the year, like ranked games. Which is doable. I say with no confidence. I think it's doable. So that's my smaller goal. It's a bit okay. I don't know how I'm going to get there. Like I don't have specific small granular goals like you do, which I think are probably better. It's more of just a general. I would like to climb, and I'm going to do my best to do so. But I don't have any small I don't have any easily achievable small goals. Which maybe would be better.
Yeah, I have a couple more, which is watching more of my own replays.
That's a good one.
Because it's kind of painful to watch, but it is really useful because you always see what you're doing wrong afterwards. So that's another one. And then just to stop dangerous warding, because I do that less, but I still haven't completely cut it out. And it's this weird impulse that I just want to just run in with no vision and no idea where anyone else is, and I don't know, gets you killed. It's a bad idea.
Maybe that'll be my second Dota resolution is to have better Dota impulse control, because I have terrible impulse control. Even in ranked, like I take ranked like way more seriously than unranked, but even in ranked I find myself doing plays that I know are bad. Like aggressive warding is a good example, where it's like I know with like 90% certainty that they are going to either kill me here or they're going to see me ward, and then it's just all wasted time. But then I'll do it anyway. Like like a dog that has a shock collar that knows it's gonna get shocked if it walks too far away from like the yard, but then they just do it anyway, and they're like, oh man, what a surprise, I got shocked. I do that in Dota, where I'm just like, I know this is a terrible play, and after the fact, while I'm sitting there, assessing my mortality for the 45 seconds that I'm dead, I'm like, why did I do that? I knew that I was going to die, and then I proceeded to do it anyway. So I need to work on that. That's a good one. Maybe I'll do that. Hopefully. We'll see. Maybe that'll help me make the difference and get me to Divine 5.
Yeah, so my other resolution, my kind of long-term goal is to gain 1,000 MMR. I want to get into...
That's a big number.
Yeah, I know. I don't know whether that's really unrealistic, though. But I really want to...
That's doable.
I'm Crusader 1 at the moment. I want to get into Archon. That is like... Yeah, I want to get in there.
Yeah.
I don't... Yeah, so that's like my other... I think it's doable. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely doable.
I think it's doable.
Also, I think it actually would math out to be a little less than 1,000 MMR also, like badge-wise. But no, that's absolutely doable. Especially, we'll see how the whole recalibration system works. Like, that was one of the reasons why I was a bit apprehensive to make a MMR-based goal, is because not even 6 months from now. Let's see, it'd be like 4 months from now would be the next season, I think. When didn't the first season start like November 1st? Maybe
around then.
I don't know.
Around then, I think.
Yeah, I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, like 4 months from now or whatever, when the recalibration hits. If it becomes a like personal recalibration, then you might be able to climb like a whole bunch of MMR all into the space of 10 games. Or you might go down a whole bunch of MMR in 10 games. So that's why I was a bit apprehensive to make a like specific number-based thing.
True.
Granted, the badges are based on the numbers anyway, so you're going to get, potentially you're just going to get screwed either way if you're going to lose. But we'll see. That's a good goal, though. Like 1,000 MMR is a nice round number, and it's very doable. And
like I'm thinking, like I think it's kind of like, it's not for the next season, like by next season I want to be in Archon. I think it's like by the end of the year, because I think even though it's going to reset and stuff, I should just calibrate around where I was when it left off, right? Like that's what I'm hoping anyway. I hope I don't have to start back down
presumably,
again.
Presumably
if
that's what it'll do.
Yeah. So that's kind of like my long-term goal, and we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Yeah.
I would say that 1,000 MMR a year is a pretty realistic goal. Like just in general. Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely doable. Also, it's not even... I was going to say it's easier to climb MMR at lower MMRs, but that's not even necessarily true. Like, it's pretty easy to climb MMR, period. As long as, like, you put your nose to the grindstone and figure it out. So, I have faith.
Yeah.
I think you'll climb that MMR.
I think the thing I'm, like, struggling with in playing ranked is kind of, like, do I go with what I know? Which is what I have been doing. I've been playing mostly support. But I kind of sometimes feel like it doesn't have enough impact. Like if you have someone who's... You could kind of be a bad support, and if your carry farms loads, then you're probably okay. But you could be an amazing support, and like, it helps. But if someone just doesn't know how to kill and get kills and farm and stuff, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, really. It's a tough one.
It depends on the hero a lot too. Like, I think that's true if you're playing like, I don't know, should we flame CM again? If you're playing CM, you can have a lot of impact, sure, but at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do. Whereas if you're playing Luna, you have a bit more of an ability. That's a terrible example. If you're playing, we'll stick to supports. If you're playing Shadow Shaman, you can take like an entire lane of racks yourself if you make a really nice play.
Yeah.
Because you have the ability to, you have these very consequential big actions, whereas CM has a lot of consequential small actions. And those small actions accumulate into something big, hopefully, whereas a big cooldown or like a big spell or a big movement is a lot more simple, right? If you're playing... if you're playing Shadow Demon and you're doing a lot of little things, like, yeah, of course, like, that is important to win a game. But it's a lot different than playing Enigma and saying, all right, all I have to do is hit one good black hole and then we win. So I think that is, like, that's one of the big problems with supporting in general, is that you don't do a lot of consequential, large scope things. Like, if you're playing Oracle, you might win a game because your Oracle play was super good. But it's not like playing a really consequential, like, hero, where it's just like, oh, okay, like, we won this game visibly because you made a big black hole or you got a big Echo Slam. It's more like, oh, good job, Oracle. Like, you did nice. So that's where that's, like, feeling kind of comes from. It's like, oh, man, he saved me, like, by ulting. It's like, yeah, like, that's nice, but it's not flashy. It's not big. It's not like, oh, man, our Shadow Shaman ratted and got us to racks because he just has, like, Shadow Blade Ags. And, like, he just pushed. So that is one of the reasons why supporting for a lot of people is kind of, your work is not appreciated. Your work is not appreciated in a lot of cases. And it's very intangible when you do well on a lot of heroes.
And like that was the kind of the whole reason why I started to learn kind of other roles as well, is because I kind of thought, before they did introduce like the seasonal ranked thing, I was like, oh, well, I want to get better at playing core positions because, I can't trust other people to do what I need them to do. Because I think like another frustrating thing is people forget about taking towers and stuff like that. People forget about the objective that all they want to do is go and get kills. And so actually I was thinking like maybe I should limit. I was thinking maybe I should only pick supports that help push towers like Jakiro or Shaman.
Yeah, I mean, you could, if you just played Jakiro for, the next 250 games, I think you'd probably climb a bunch of MMR, honestly.
Yeah.
I think that's a very, how to word it? Let's see. I think that would be a good way to climb. That is one of the most common complaints at all MMRs, but especially at lower MMRs, is that people play Dota like it's a team deathmatch game. Like they win a team fight and then they go farm. It's like, no, you win a team fight and then you take an objective, whether that's Roche or whether that's Rax or whether it's just a tier 1 tower sometimes. And a lot of people kind of forget about that. And they're like, oh no, like I'll push on my next item. Oh no, I'll push, when I have my cooldowns back. It's, people are, I don't know, lily-livered. That's not a phrase I've used often, but...
I don't think I've ever heard that phrase.
Have you not? Oh, I don't even know.
No.
I haven't. It's like an old-timey American phrase. Let's see. Lily-livered. Weak and cowardly.
Okay. Well, we learn something new every day.
The first known use of lily-livered was in 1605, from the medieval belief that the liver was the seat of courage and the pale color of the lily flower. A person who had no blood in their liver would have no courage and thus be a coward. It's an adjective.
That's amazing.
I've not used that phrase probably in years, but it's a good phrase, lily-livered. But yeah, people they just don't do stuff. Like they're just like, oh, I just want to farm. It's like, no, you want to win Dota, and winning Dota sometimes means you need to farm, and most of the time means taking towers, right? Like the reason you farm is to take buildings. You don't take buildings to get farm. Like, and kind of like
the most frustrating thing about like even talking about this is like I know I fall into the same trap when I'm playing a core role. I'll like, we'll win a team fight and then I'm like, oh, but what about my next item? And I'll wander off and then I get pinged a bunch and it's like, no, come with us. And I'm like, oh yeah, of course. But like you just kind of get into this like mindset of, oh, I must farm. Oh, I must get my, and I mean, it's helpful, but you could lose.
Yeah, I mean, farming is a means to an end, right? And so that means you need to capitalize on those opportunities where you can actually use the farm to, create that end that you want. So yeah, if you fall into a hole where you're just like, yeah, I'm just gonna farm, then it might work out, but odds are, I shouldn't say odds, since this is a bit subjective, but you want to farm. Farming is like the thing that you do to fill space. Right? Like you farm when you don't have anything else to do. But when you are going to push, like that's like the time that you push, right? You're pushing for the sake of winning the game. And then whenever you can't push, you're farming. And whenever you can't kill people, you're farming. And whenever you can't, do a larger play, you're farming. And some people, if you miss out on the opportunity to make the larger play and instead farm, then, like I said, you're missing out on opportunities. So yeah, you have to leverage the fact that you have farm, right? That's why like power timings are so important, right? If you are playing anti-mage, your peaks are right when you get an item that you were farming for, right? Like you have a huge power peak when you have Battle Fury Treads, Manta, and an Abyssal. Your power peak only goes down from there. Like let's say you get your Abyssal at like 28 minutes. At 29 minutes, that power peak is your power peak at 29 minutes is less than it is at 28 minutes because your enemies have had time to get items and learn to deal with you. So you need to like leverage the fact like, oh man, I just got an item. So like you farm so that you can get to those points. But
yeah. And whilst we're talking about like power peaks and like item timings and stuff like this is something I was wondering, how do you know what those are? Is it just like playing a ton of that hero and recognizing when you are most powerful and what items make you like, and when you're supposed to, what time you're supposed to get items at? Is it just playing it a bunch or how do you know? Like,
I mean, it is like you should feel strong. Like,
yeah,
maybe that is, kind of a silly answer, but your power peaks are when you feel strong, right? And the reason you feel strong is like, I just got my ultimate, or I just got my blink dagger, or I just got whatever. Some heroes, it's very obvious what their peaks are, like, or spikes, I should say, because you can't really have multiple peaks, can you? Actually, you can. I don't know enough about mountains to answer that question, but now I'm distracted with mountaineering. Like, you have so here's the answer. You have multiple peaks in a mountain range, but you only have one peak on an individual mountain. Okay. Anyway,
I think so.
Yes, some heroes have very obvious power spikes where it's like, oh, I just got ultimate on Tidehunter. Oh, I just got my Greaves on Tidehunter. Like, oh, I just got my Blink on Tidehunter. I just got Refresher on Tidehunter, right? That's four spikes right there. I keep saying peaks. That's 4 spikes right there. And you should feel strong at each of those points, right? Like when you hit 6, that's where you're like, all right, I have Ravage. Like, let's kill somebody. Whereas, if you're level 5 and you're like, I got level 3 Anchor Smash. That's not a big deal. Like, sure, it's nice, but it's not a power spike. And some heroes are just less obvious, I guess, is the way I would describe it. Like, if you're playing, let's see, what's a good example? I'm just looking at my recent games. If you're playing Centaur War Runner, there's an obvious power spike right when you get your Blink Dagger, right? Like you have like Tranquil's Blink Dagger and like a Stout Shield, right? You hit a power spike because you're like, right now is the time where I have the ability to do what my hero is meant to do, right? I can jump on people and stun them and make room for kills. But his power spikes later are a bit more vague and harder to notice, right? Because, you get a blade mail, you get a pipe and stuff. And yeah, of course, it contributes to your overall power level, but it is not like a spike like that Blink Dagger purchase was. Another good example is like Shadow Fiend, right? Shadow Fiend has a power spike right when he gets Shadow Blade because you now have the ability to go around and make big plays with your Shadow Blade. But when he gets like his 5th item, that's like, let's say a butterfly, like that contributes to your overall strength and is a big factor, of course. Like it's a lot of net worth, it's a lot of stats, it's a lot of everything that he wants. But it's not creating a new spike, right? Your hero has not changed because you got a butterfly. Your hero has just become better. But when you get that Blink Dagger, when you get that Yield Scepter, when you get that like big item or big spell, or like a big talent choice or a big, spell, that is like a spike. Whereas other aspects of leveling and of farming, they just contribute to like a gradual growth instead of spikes. So I mean, part of the answer is you just have to play a lot of a hero. That's part of it, but you should feel strong, and that's the simplest way Is, if you're playing Silencer and you're like, right, I just got my Bloodthorn. Like, I feel real strong. Like, bam, all right, like, that's a nice power spike.
Yeah. Okay.
Whereas if you don't feel
that makes
strong,
a lot of sense.
Yeah. So you just got to feel it out. Some are obvious and some are not. But anything that changes your hero fundamentally is a power spike. Like, to put it simply. If you find yourself doing things that you could not do before, that's like the result of a power spike, right? If you're taking fights because you have a Blink Dagger, you are fundamentally a better and different hero than if you were taking fights without a Blink Dagger. And so a lot of items don't fundamentally change a hero like that. Like Drums does not fundamentally change a hero. Drums does not create a power spike for any hero on Earth. But it's still a good item. So you have to have a combination of things, right? Where some items, while not creating power spikes, they do create like that growth that you need in a hero.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I'd like to talk a little bit about trilaning.
Okay. Cool.
And so how often should supports be in the safe lane with their core? I guess because you only really want one in them at max, right? Because you don't want to be leeching the XP off the safe laner too much, right?
Yeah, unless you're pushing, you don't want to be splitting XP 3 ways. That's just a good rule of thumb. Is that, when we talk about consequential actions, the only time you should be splitting XP 3 ways is when you are committing to doing something consequential that requires 3 people, right? If you're going for a kill, like, yeah, of course you should be there. If you're going to push a tower, yeah, of course you should be there. Because the point of pushing a tower, the point of getting a kill is to get a kill, right? It's not to get XP. Whereas laning phase is about getting XP and gold. And then it's intermittently you're doing those big consequential actions. So in laning phase, I would say you don't necessarily want to be splitting XP 3 ways, but 2 supports in the safe lane is fine as long as they're not both splitting XP. The times where you want that to be happening is when you're zoning the offlaner. If it requires 2 people to do it, still do it. Obviously, you don't want to sit them in there the whole time. But, if you can't, so I played a game recently as Rubik, and my other support, I don't even remember what it was. It was like a lion or something. Rubik cannot zone a bristleback, but Rubik and Lion can zone a bristleback. So in that game, you're going to have 2 supports dedicated to zoning. Whereas in a different game, let's say I'm playing Shadow Shaman and their offlaner is a Zeus, I can solo zone a Zeus as Shadow Shaman because I deal 8,000 damage with a right click. So I don't need to have another support there. My other support could be stacking or pulling or whatever. So that's like one of the core maxims of trilaning is if you need 3 heroes to do something, don't be scared to put 3 heroes there, but you don't want to always have 3 heroes there. So one of the reasons why aggro trilanes, one of the core weaknesses of aggro trilanes is that they are splitting XP 3 ways, because unless they're good and they're pulling, because they are constantly splitting XP, and that means they're always going to be at a deficit level-wise, even if you have a safe lane trilane, because they don't have avenues to get XP other ways, except like bounty runes, I guess. And you can side pull from the off lane, but it's very easy to interrupt, so that's not consistent.
Right.
So
ideally you want someone to be zoning, someone else in the jungle kind of like pulling and stacking camps, and then just kind of like creating space for your safe laner just to get last hits and have all the XP they want.
Yeah, that's creating
the ideal situation, I guess. And then you're nearby if there is the opportunity to get a kill or something. Yeah,
or if you need to like rotate defensively or something. You want to...
Right.
It's all about eking out as much as you possibly can, right? If you are... If you're making stacks or you're making pulls, you're generating resources. And that is obviously a good thing. But sometimes you have to find the ways to create resources and see whether or not you actually can do that, right? So in that earlier situation, if I'm playing Rubik and trying to zone with a lion, if the lion like just leaves and says, no, I'm going to stack, I can no longer do what I intended to do. So that's not a situation. But if I'm playing Shadow Shaman, I can say, all right, I can solo zone this guy. You go make stacks. You go pull. You go do whatever. So you capitalize on the opportunity that you have to generate resources for the team. Similarly, like in that same situation, if we kill the bristleback, then that means we have, let's say 20 seconds to go make a stack or go pull or go get bounty runes or go whatever. So you want to be fulfilling your objectives and fulfilling what you need to do, which is usually zoning the offlaner or killing the offlaner. And then whenever you have completed those objectives or have space to do other things, that's when you make pulls, or that's when you make stacks, or that's when you rotate to other lanes and whatnot. It becomes very out of hand if you spend too much time doing those ancillary secondary things like stacking and pulling. But and then like the offlaner gets a bunch of stuff and he's contesting your safe laner, and suddenly you can't zone him anymore. So now you're just shafted. So yeah, it's a balancing act.
Yeah. So in terms of like picking heroes as supports to go into a trilane, what kind of, do you want someone who's like a bit more, one that's a bit more tanky than the other one that can be more of like a 4? Or because I've always been like very worried about picking kind of 2 supports that could be seen as 5s. I guess. Kind of 2 squishy supports. So I guess you're looking for a combo of, I don't know, what are you looking for? I guess one support that can do the kind of 5 role, and one that's a bit more tankier that can be as a position 4 and rotate if need be to another lane.
Yeah, I mean, so of course this all depends on like the hero choices and whatnot. In general, you don't want 2 heroes that do the exact same thing. Kind of to put it simply, right? If you have CC is probably a bad example of this, but if you have a lion, you already have so much CC that you'd rather have a hero that is producing damage rather than another hero that's CCing, right? If you have 3 heroes, but all they do is stun people, like you need somebody to do damage, right? So you need to kind of balance the strengths of your 3 heroes. And of course, like counterpicking and whatnot is important. Like if they have an offlane enchantress, it doesn't matter how good your like spirit breaker is, it's just a bad matchup. So you need to add counterpicking into this. But in general, if I'm picking a trilane, I'm trying to have a mix of a hero that is able to rotate and then a hero that is able to zone the offlaner. And if you can't do that with just the one hero that is meant to zone, then you need to commit both heroes to zone, or you need to accept the fact that you can't zone this guy and then you like go bother the mid laner or something. That's also something that happens, especially like in previous patches in the recent 6 months or so, where we saw that like duolane and trilane mid stuff. That was just because you can't, like, you're not getting enough out of zoning the offlaner, so you may as well mess with the mid laner. But yeah, when I'm deciding on a trilane, I want to have kill potential, I want to have pushing potential, and then I want to have rotation potential. Like if my supports are Skywrath, Mage, and Lich, and my mid gets Dove, I can't do anything. Like, sure, I can slow the guy that's diving him, I guess, but that's a terrible support duo because you just don't have the capability of doing at least one of those 3 things that I mentioned, right? Like you do not have rotation capability, like saving wise, from Skywrath, Mage, and Lich as a duo. And you don't have offensive rotation capability because, yeah, sure, Skywrath is okay at rotating, but Skywrath does not have a stun. You want to have, like, Skywrath needs to be matched with a hero that has a stun or a hex, I suppose, to kind of balance that out. Yeah, and also, like, you're looking at the general synergy of heroes, right? Like, if you have a Drow safe lane and then you pick, like, Jakiro and Ogre Magi, those 3 heroes are very well suited to each other. Right, they are of good rotation potential. If my mid gets Dove, Ogre's decent at rotating, and Jakiro's decent at rotating to save my mid laner, or to aggressively position on the enemy mid laner. They are both good at zoning. They are both good at pushing. They fulfill the necessary holes in a team. They produce very simple and tangible results. Right, like if you have Bloodlust, you know, all right, I am better now because I have Bloodlust. I have better attack speed and better movement speed. It's a very like tangible, this is a good thing. Whereas like if you have an Oracle on your team, that's much more specialized and it's less tangible. It's like, oh, I guess I'm healed now. Like, oh, you know, whatever, so on and so forth. So yeah, honestly, like I could play every game of Dota 2. If for the rest of 2018, every single game, my two supports on my team were Jakiro and Ogre Magi, I would be happy. Like they're simple heroes that do very tangible things and are almost never bad. Whereas a lot of these specialized heroes like Scarith Mage, he has his games where he's super good and well suited, but he also has his games where he's just terrible. Like that's like that game earlier that I was talking about. Like I just fed a sniper because that was just a bad hero for that game. So you have to kind of realize that when you're looking at an overall game, and also when you're looking at a trilane, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
It's a little hard. Like I was trying to like think through my thoughts, but it's a little hard to wrap it up simply, I guess, in that there's so many situational bits to it.
Right.
It's like, you know,
I
sometimes
guess it depends so much.
Yeah, so like if your supports are Scarith Mage and Shadow Shaman, that's not an ideal support duo, right? Like you're both squishy, you're both well, Scarith's pretty quick, but you're both squishy. You don't really have a good way to like kill people, to rotate. Like you're both, you know, you're both a little lackluster, right? But in some games, that's the right choice. If you're like, oh, well, we really need a support that has a silence, and we really need a support that has push, because like our safe laner can't hit buildings. Like if our safe laner is a Slark, yeah, sure, like Scarith Mage and the Shadow Shaman are not good together necessarily. But if the game calls for it, the game calls for it, and that's just going to be your support duo. Because sometimes, you know, you just have holes in a team, and you need to fill it in weird ways. But you don't want to do that unless you need to, right?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny actually, kind of off topic, but when you mentioned Slark just then, I was thinking, actually, I haven't seen a Slark in one of my games in such a long time.
Yeah, he sucks.
I remember like he used to like haunt my games like as a support like all the time. I'd be terrified about going anywhere like for fear that there's going to be a slug that would just pop up and just one hit kill you pretty much and just explode you. But like, yeah, I haven't seen him in forever.
Yeah, he's not
just
good.
No.
I've seen a couple. I forget if I lost to it or I was watching a game and somebody lost to it, but I saw a Slark really dominate the other day. It was, I think I was doing coaching with somebody and they were playing Juggernaut and they just got like counterpicked into oblivion. Like, cause Juggernaut loses to Slark pretty hard because like you Omnislash and you just ults and you're like, oh God, okay, I guess I lose now.
Was it a safe lane Slark?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Slark, like you can, again, sometimes a game calls for a hero and you can just kind of put it somewhere. Like you can play mid Slark. I've done it before, but you don't ever want to enter a game saying, oh, I'm going to play mid Slark. It's more like, oh, well, Slark's perfect here. So I guess you play it mid because like the matchup's not too bad. And we just really need it as a counter pick. Kind of like Zeus. Some games you're like, man, I really want to have a Zeus on this team. And then you like stick it as a support or an offlaner. It's like, yeah, this is not ideal, but we needed a Zeus, so that's just how it is.
Yeah, it works for the time.
Yeah. Slark's just not good. He got a lot of nerfs, and he's just kind of an awkward hero to build around. He doesn't hit buildings, which is a big weakness. I'm just looking at his changelog now. Like, let's see. His talents aren't very good. Like, I mean, they're okay, but they're nothing special. Whereas a lot of heroes have like fundamentally changing. Like they get talents and they're like, wow, I'm a different hero now. Slark does not have any of those. He's pickable though. Like he's not terrible. Yeah. He's just bad. But some games he's good. Like some games, I'm totally down to have a Slark on my team because it's just a good matchup. But you can't just pick him anymore. Whereas for a while there, he was just like so annoying that you could just pick him.
Just in every game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like the last couple of times I saw him, he was playing as like a roaming 4, which was kind of odd because you think he's a bit too greedy to play a 4.
Yeah, that's really weird. Right? I mean I think 4 is a weird position.
In one of the games, it really worked. It kind of went late enough that it just turned into another core, and then it was sad. But
4 is a weird position because sorry. 4 is a weird position because I said sorry and I just continued cutting you off. 4 is a weird position because you can just kind of put heroes there like that aren't 4s, but sometimes it works. Like you can just be like, yeah, I'm playing like roaming PA used to be pretty decent.
Really?
Back when Dagger, because Dagger was really strong. So people would just like level 1 just get like a Blightstone and a couple Clarities, and they just like dagger as like a 4. And Orb of Venom, because Orb of Venom applies, and Orb of Venom is 15 damage. So you're throwing out daggers that are doing your regular dagger damage, and then also slowing the opponent, and also for 15, and also dealing 15 additional damage, which is a lot of damage in the early game. Like that's why Orb of Venom is one of the reasons why Orb of Venom is so good, is because a hero that has 50 base attack is doing 65 damage. Before armor, because of the Orb of Venom cumulatively. So yeah, and then so that's just like one of those weird things where like PA4 shouldn't work, but in the right situation, it was like, yeah, it was a passable thing. So yeah, Slark 4 I wouldn't advise, but maybe it works sometimes.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the way of like most things in Dota. Sometimes it works, and
pubs shouldn't. Are nonsense too.
Yeah, that's true.
Pubs is just like, who cares? Like pubs, like you could pick the most perfect Drow strat or the most perfect team comp, but you're still gonna lose in a pub because it's like, yeah, the other team has 5 carries and the game went late, or like, the other team has 5 carries and you lost the laning phase somehow. Like that, that's just how it is.
Yeah. All right, so I think before jumping into some listener questions, I'm not going to forget the ads this week, like I did last week.
I'm a good influence on you.
Yeah, so now we're going to jump into some ads.
I'm excited.
Our first sponsor is Pugner, who's an online platform and community where high-skilled Dota players and coaches create educational video guides on how to improve at the game, learn new heroes, and help you climb the ranks. Actually, I watched a Doom one recently, and that was good, because I've been playing more Doom, and...
Yep, that's the Proud influence. I make you do ads on the right time, but Proud makes you play Doom.
Yeah. Makes me play Doom, I know. And it's just like so useful to just watch a video, which is just like so nicely kind of wrapped up and explains everything really well. It's just, definitely something worth looking into if you haven't already.
Yeah, it's always nice to have specialized content. Like that's why I suppose this is an ad for our Patreon now, but that it's one of the reasons why we like doing those hero specific episodes that we do on Patreon, is because it's like, if you want to learn how to play Jakiro, you click on this video or this podcast, and that is specialized, hyper specialized content. Whereas like on a Theorycraft Thursday, we talk about so many different things that, hopefully you learn, but realistically, things pop in and out of your mind. Whereas if you can go to Pugna and I watch a lot of Jenkins's offlane guides because I suck at offlane, and he's really good at it. So I'm learning bit by bit. But it's really handy because you're just like, I want to like learn how to play offlane brew, and it's like, okay, this is a 2 hour long sequence of videos that'll teach me how to play brew, and it's very like, I had a very specific goal in mind, and then I had specialized content to achieve that goal, which is real handy.
Yeah. Actually, I think I might, because I was just thinking, like, I have no idea really how brew works that much, and I was thinking, like, I should probably just watch a couple of like videos, not even necessarily if I really want to pick the hero up, but just like on the rare occasion that I'm against one and I don't really know how they work. That's definitely something I should do. Maybe that's another New Year's resolution. Try and learn about more heroes that I don't know about, even if I don't want to play them. Diversifying
is good. Brew is a bad example. I don't think Jenkins has an offlane brew guide. I'm just clicking through it now. But because he has one for every other offlane hero.
Yeah, well, either way, there's plenty of content for players of all skill levels to learn from. So whether you're just learning the game, or have already played for a long time, or are a veteran looking to brush up, there's plenty of you to learn from. So you can try out the full Pugna Pro subscription for 30 days, 100% free with the promo code 4th. And you can find Pugna on Twitter at Pugna, which is PVGNA, or at pugna.com. And then our second sponsor is Unicorn, which is everyone's premier esports outlet. Unicorn has completely legal and free-to-play esports betting, as well as real money betting in the UK or Australia. You can earn betting tokens as well as Unicorn Gold on cosmetic item raffles by playing your favorite games. Unicorn has plenty of other stellar Dota 2 content, including articles, analysis, guides to new patches when they go live, and other esport interest pieces from folks like Gorgon and others. Unicorn has their new Unicorn Connect service where you can earn Unicorn Gold just by playing Dota 2, CSGO, or LoL, and trade in gold for chances to win cosmetic items from those games at no cost to you. You can find Unicorn at unicorn.com and more info on Connect at unicorn.com/connect. That's Unicorn, UNIKRN, and Connect at CONNEKT.
Yeah, for all the cryptocurrency people, technically Unicorn Gold is a cryptocurrency, so you can it's like on the cryptocurrency marketplace. I don't know enough about cryptocurrency to like fully explain it, but they were making some posts the other day about how technically, or it's not even technical, like it is on marketplace, like you can invest in Unicorn Gold or whatever.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't know anything about cryptocurrency, honestly. Like I
own a bit, but I've slowly been learning. But
yeah,
I really,
how's that going?
It's stressful, dude. I don't know how people do it. It's interesting. Like I consider my podcast money my like fun money that I can do whatever with, compared to my like regular paycheck from my job that I just sock away to spend on tuition. So I was just like, one month I was like, I'm just gonna like put a little bit of money into Ethereum and Litecoin and just see how it goes. And I check it regularly, but it's like I don't have any control over it. Like I could be trading or whatever, but it's more just like I check it every few hours or whatever, and it's like, oh, I'm down 10% or oh, I'm up 10%. It's very stressful.
Yeah,
but it's cool.
It sounds it. I bet it's like addictive as well to just keep checking it all the time and be like, has it gone up? Has it gone up?
It is. I just like I have Coinbase on my like taskbar, and it's like, oh, let's just click it. Like, oh, okay, I'm at like, and yeah, it's interesting. I figured the best way to get interested in cryptocurrency and like start to understand it was just to have money in the game, right? Because like when you have skin in the game, so to speak, that's when like you actually are like forced to care about things. But I also kind of like, me checking it is not going to change its price. It just tells me what the price is. So on the other hand, I still have like no interest in the marketplace. It's like I don't do anything. Like all I do is like check to see like, oh, I'm up a little or I'm down a little. But it's weird. I also bought at a high point, which was dumb. But I just kind of wanted to do it. Because I was treating this like a hobby rather than like a thing that I want to make money on. So I dropped like, whatever. Such is life.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If you wanted to learn about it and it was kind of just like fun money anyway, then I guess,
Yeah.
It's not too bad if it crashes. Hopefully it doesn't.
Having just a little bit of money in it and like having kind of the fun aspect of cryptocurrency has been interesting. But it definitely, the one thing it has taught me is that I will never invest seriously in cryptocurrency because I could not take it. Like when you wake up in the morning and you like casually check something and you're like, oh man, I'm like, my thing that was worth $200 last night is now worth $112. It's like that's like not a huge deal because this is just fun money for me. But if something was seriously invested, it's like, oh man, like I have $30,000 in Bitcoin and now suddenly I have like 18,000. It's like, oh god. So yeah, I don't have the heart for that stuff, but I respect people that are able to like play more seriously with their with stocks and whatnot. It basically is just stocks.
It seems extremely volatile, but let's get into some listener questions.
Shall we? Yeah.
So
Proud has made me way too conscious of certain phrases that I say, and really? Every time I say "shall we," I cringe now. It's dangerous.
Really?
Yeah. Or like earlier. There are just some phrases that I use too much. That's why I'm going to start saying things like lily livered, just dropping random weird words.
Yeah, diversifying. All right, so our first question is from Kona Tangent, and they say, at what point do you feel is the most appropriate time to start focusing on yourself and try to build against the enemy's lineup? Where do you draw the line of having so many counter items that you're basically trying to do something another hero could have been doing better?
Okay. we talked earlier about how some items are like game-changing items for your hero, right? We were talking about like Centaur is a different hero once he gets Blink compared to what he was before Blink. But then later on items are not that like game-changing for Centaur, right? If he gets a Blade Mail, it's like, okay, he has a Blade Mail, but he is not like suddenly a different hero because he has a Blade Mail. He's just a Centaur that's better at being Centaur. So thinking like that, I would say if I require those kind of big game-changing items, I don't want to postpone or remove those from my build just to counter an opponent. You also, a lot of times you have to gauge how much you can commit or how little you can commit to countering an opponent and still counter them, if that makes sense. So, for example, if you're playing Life Stealer against Anti-Mage, you're thinking, right, I need to be able to lock down this Anti-Mage, so I need an Abyssal. And that's like a proper amount of commitment, item-wise and money-wise, to countering this AM. And sure, it's not going to be enough, but hopefully, your other heroes would do it. But if an overcommitment would be finishing that Abyssal and then saying, all right, I also need a Sheep Stick, then suddenly you're committing way too much to countering this Anti-Mage, and that's where you've gone overboard. And it's not natural, right? That's maybe not a great example because you could build a Bloodthorn, which, well, yeah, sure. Like, let's say you have an Orchid and an Abyssal. That is two items that fit into his build-up, the Lifestealer's build-up, and they counter the opposing AM. But if you then also buy a Sheep, it's like, this is overkill. This is just too much. And now your ability to kill other heroes is less because you just don't deal enough damage because you spent like 6,000 gold on a Scythe. Like, that's terrible. So that's usually what goes into my mind when I'm thinking about countering heroes, is I want to counter them, but I don't want to spend too much time and money denying myself other items that I need so that I can counter them. It really depends a lot on whether or not those counter items fit into your build as well. Like, again, keeping that Lifestealer example, Orchid has some stats that he doesn't really care about, but most of the stats in Orchid you really like as a Lifestealer, and the utility of it is strong enough that it's a good item, and the build-up is easy. It's a relatively cheap item, and Bloodthorn is good for you. Same thing with Abyssal. Abyssal, you take advantage of everything that Abyssal gives you as a Lifestealer. Scythe, though, you only take advantage of a very little of the item, and it's very expensive, and the build-up is not easy. So it's very unnatural. Proud, a lot of times, one of the things he always says is that an item is good because you take advantage of all of it, right? If you're playing Anti-Mage, you take advantage of all of a Battle Fury. But if you're playing Anti-Mage and you get like a... I don't know, I'll just keep using Scythe for the sake of simplicity. If you're going to play Anti-Mage and you get a Scythe, you're only taking advantage of the active and of the passive stats from the Ultimate Orb that went into it. You're not taking advantage of like 75% of the item. Like, you're not getting anything from the int, you're not getting anything from the mana regen. So you're not using that item to its fullest extent, whereas Alina is using that item to its fullest extent. So you want to be... Again, continuing that logic, if you find yourself trying to counter an opponent and you're getting a bunch of stuff that you're only taking advantage of half of the item, that's where it becomes a problem, really. And you want to commit like as little gold as possible. If a smaller item can counter an enemy, then there's no reason to build the big item that counters the enemy, if that makes sense, right? If you keep getting killed by a Yule's Lina, you could buy a BKB. But that's almost 4,000 gold. Like, that's expensive. But the simpler, easier thing is, like, I just bought a Glimmer Cape, and that's 2,000 gold. And now I'm still surviving that same situation. But I didn't spend 4,000 gold. I instead spent 2,000 gold. So if you can counter an opponent with a smaller item, you should do so. Don't always jump to the most expensive thing. Although, on the other hand, if you take advantage of the stats from the expensive item, then consider building that more expensive item, right? Like, if you're playing Sven, probably don't build a Glimmer Cape against Alina, because that's like you're going unnecessarily far out of your way to get that Glimmer Cape. But do get the BKB, even though it's more expensive, because you are taking advantage of the other aspects of the item. I think once things start feeling unnatural, that's when you should be concerned. Like if you're concerned about a Lina that keeps Yule's comboing you and you're playing, Shadow Fiend, like sure, build a BKB, sure, build a Yule's, sure, build, one item. But if you find yourself having all of those items and then it's redundant, it's like, all right, this is a bit overkill. And you've gone too far aflung from what you would be building normally, right? Like if you're committing so many slots and so much money into doing something, think, how can I make this simpler? And do it the simplest way, hopefully. Sometimes, you need to overcommit to countering a hero. Like, the other aspect of this is you have to... If you're going to try super hard to counter, like, a support and you're a core, that's probably a problem with your play rather than your itemization. Similarly, if you are a support and you're trying to counter a core and you just have no possible way, like you're trying to build a Scythe on CM as your second item, it's like, this is just not going to happen, right? You're better off like doing a bunch of smaller things. And maybe it's not going to be as effective, but it's something and it's an achievable goal. And if you're playing a hard farming Shadow Fiend and you're spending all your time like trying to counter like a Shadow Shaman because you're like, oh, I can't kill Shadow Shaman wards, I'm going to build a Hurricane Pike. It's like, yeah, I mean, if you have to build it for other reasons, go for it. But more realistically, why don't you just like deal with it? Like just punch them anyway and take a little bit of damage. Like that's just how it is. Don't commit an entire item on your hard farming 2 that's super fat and should be killing people just to counter like their 5 position support's ultimate. Like, if it's a problem you can deal with without investing, don't invest.
Okay.
Yeah. So if it feels unnatural, don't do it. I think that's the simpler way. If you're going way too far out of your way, it's like, this sucks. If it doesn't feel like you're playing your hero like you want to play your hero, then, you've probably gone too far.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay,
so
that problem? Sorry, do you run into that problem often? Like, I know I do.
No, it's a simple answer. I guess like...
do you not counter people enough then?
No, I don't. No, for sure. It's something I will try. I think it's something I'll try and think about when playing like a support, because I guess you get like a couple of items and you think, oh, what could I get that could really help the team out? Whereas if I'm playing more of a core position, I'll kind of just go, okay, well, this is what I usually get. And if I just get that, I should probably just be fine.
Yeah.
Apart from, which is kind of silly. And I don't actively think that, but I think that's what I would be thinking. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what I'm thinking in like subconsciously. Like, I don't necessarily think, oh, what items can I use to counter someone? But hopefully that'll just come with time.
It will, as long as you're thinking about it actively. That's the important part. Like, even if you built the wrong items to counter somebody, it's important to be thinking about items and why you're building them. Like, I forget who I was talking to. Maybe this was on a podcast. Actually, I can't remember. I would say that the only wrong decision in Dota is one that you make without thinking. Even if you make a wrong decision, but you thought about it and you have solid logic, even if that's wrong within that game, it's still a good decision in the sense that you're growing as a Dota player. Like, using this, one of the earlier itemization examples, if you're playing Lifestealer and maybe you committed 3 slots to countering an anti-mage, you're going to lose that game, but it is good to be actively thinking about, like, all right, I diverted from my build and I tried something cool and it didn't work out, but I tried it. And now for the next time, you are not going to do that. You're going to say, all right, all I needed was the Orchid and the Abyssal. All I needed was the Abyssal. All I needed was just an Orchid, maybe. Instead of saying, all right, I committed way too hard in this situation and it didn't work out. It's good to grow as a player just by thinking through your decisions, whether or not they're wrong, as long as you have like that internal dialogue that's like, all right, why did I do this thing? I did it because X, Y, and Z. That's what's important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I need to think about countering people more. Maybe that's added onto the list of resolutions too.
The growing
Man,
list.
I should stop adding to that list. I know it's
dangerous.
The list will just like morph into just be better.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if you have like 5 things on the list, that means that you can do at least one of them. Whereas, like, if you're like me and you only have one resolution and you mess it up, then it's like, right, I didn't do anything. But if you have 5 small resolutions, then maybe you actually do 1 or 2 of them. And sure, you didn't do 3, but you did the 1 and 2, and that's what's important.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually thinking about putting prompts on the side of my screen. I think I spoke about this maybe a couple of episodes ago. I've been thinking about putting little prompts on the side of my screen just to kind of remind me to do stuff, because I feel like it's so easy to go through and just to kind of forget about it and just to fall into old habits.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
hard to remind yourself to. So I have been thinking more and more about maybe I should do that. I don't know.
I absolutely think you should do that.
Okay. But then also, I guess I was actually thinking about this the other day, and the difficult thing is I'm not sure whether I should do it for, like, depending on what position I'm playing. Maybe I have a couple of lists and I like swap them in and out. How many points do I put on there? And at what point do I just stop playing the game and just look at all these prompts on the side of my screen? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about it too much.
I mean, I would just make general prompts. Like, on the right side of my screen where my items are, I'd put a prompt that says, like, counter your opponents. My voice broke. You'd say counter your opponents. And then on the left side, it's like, all right, look at your mini map. And those kind of like simple things like that carries over to everything. Whereas like, I don't know, if you're going to make like a superhero specific one, it's like tread switch before blinking on anti-mage. It's like if you have that there, sure, it's good when you're anti-mage, but when you're playing every other hero, it's like I have tranquil boots. Why do I keep seeing this post-it note that says like tread swap? So yeah, I mean, do what works for you though. I don't know.
Yeah. I guess start out small and expand if things don't work out.
Yeah.
Right? So,
and if you have too many,
anyway,
they all blur together.
Yeah, that's
true.
That's
something that like education wise you notice is just, if you make 300 flashcards, you're not going to remember each one at the end of the day. Like, it's not going to soak in that information. But if you make 10 and then you make 10 the next day and then 10 the day after, and eventually you have 300, but you've learned them 10 at a time, that's a lot more effective way to learn rather than sitting there for the first day and making 300, because it makes it more like modular learning. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So our next question is from Laffin, I think. And it's, when I'm a support in the safe lane and I'm facing a duo lane, how do I harass them? Also, in a solo lane, I have a hard time trying to harass an offlaner where I'm not also in danger of dying, but also getting effective harass. I almost always just start to harass them, then just spend my time doing pulls for the rest of laning, which doesn't seem to be the most effective strategy. But I'm not sure what to do against or in a dual lane for these situations.
Okay, so this is a hard situation to be in, and I think, I definitely run into this situation a lot, where it's just like, they're running an aggro dual lane. Theoretically, I should know how to deal with this, but in practice, it's just a mess. Do you run into this problem when you're supporting? Because you're playing a lot of support.
Yeah. It's tough.
It sucks. It's just not a fun position to be in. The solution to this problem in general is, you want to, first of all, the first thing I do every time I'm against, even a solo offlaner, but especially against an aggro duo, is you click on both heroes and see how much regen they have. If one hero has tangos and 2 mangoes and a salve, like they're a Nyx, let's say, or like a Tidehunter, you know that they have so much regen that zoning them and like really killing them or putting a lot of damage to them is going to be very difficult. But if they're aggro dueling and then the other support is a silencer and he's pulled 2 of his tangos to mid lane and he has 3 tangos and no salve on him and no branches to extend his tango usage, it's like, great, that guy's super easy to get out of lane because all he has is 3 tangos. All he has is a few hundred health worth of tangos. So I'm going to zone that guy, and we're going to get a lot more dividends rather than me chipping away at a Tidehunter that's got 1 billion regen. So that's the first thing that you absolutely should do when you're against an aggro duo is find who is zonable. Like, if they have a bristleback, realistically, you're not going to zone that guy. But you can zone the wisp that is sitting behind him. And then zone the person who has less regen in a situation where you can either zone both or I mean, even just always do it. I don't know, like click on people's items. That's more important than anything else. Is all your decisions in a lane are should be informed by what your opponent has or does not have. If they don't have regen, go hard on them trying to zone them. But if they do have regen, try to kill them, because then they can't take advantage of their regen if they're dead. The dual lane, first of all, if you have 2 supports and a carry, you want all 3 of you to be there. The cardinal sin of a support player is leaving your carry alone against an aggro duo.
Yeah.
That is like the quickest way to lose a game, just point blank. You also have to, one of the other big aspects is find out what the intention of the aggro duo is. If it is like in pubs where it's just 2 random heroes and the enemy team just like was a mess and they picked 2 carries, let's say, and they have like, I don't know, like let's say they're running like Terror Blade Tiny off lane. It's like clearly they don't have a plan there. They're just both trying to get farm. And that's where you kind of bank on them being discombobulated, disorganized, and you just tap away at both of them randomly, and they don't have any kind of unified goal. But if they're running an off lane that's like Bristleback IO, they clearly are planning on zoning you or going for kills. They plan on pushing hard. They plan on hassling the carry. So analyze what their goal is with their duo lane. If their goal is clear, then adapt to it, right? Let's say their goal is to push the tower. Just clear creep waves, just like auto attack creeps as the carry, because they're pushing your tower super hard with like Jakiro plus Undying or something, let's say. And if they are trying to kill you, then be under tower if you can manage it. Like, let's say you're playing Juggernaut. You can just sit under tower and just kite the creep waves. If they're playing like Tiny Terrorblade, like they can't really push the tower with you there. Or they can't push under the tower and go for kills or try to push the tower that easily. But if you're able, and if you're able, of course, to be under tower and get last hits. But if you're playing Drow, then you shouldn't do that. As the support, though, you kind of just have to. What you want to be doing is analyzing what conditions are optimal for you guys, and then doing your best to create those conditions. So if you want to be under tower, then maybe go do a pull. If you want to be pushing, then maybe like throw a Splinter Blast out on a Wyvern and push them away. The other big thing is just to go for kills if you're able to. A lot of times aggro dual lanes will leverage the fact that they just both have a lot of regen and they're both like tanky, annoying heroes. If you can kill them once, then that's going to set them off entirely. Like it's going to set them off kilter entirely. So like, and this is a good general rule in Dota just overall, but you want to be disrupting and stopping the enemy from doing what they want to do. You don't want to allow them to set the tone of the lane and say, all right, our plan was to push and we pushed. Like that means they won. But if their plan was to push and they didn't get to push, that means you won. So those are some general rules. A lot of times people just get frazzled and they just like leave lane. Don't do that. I think that's another safe rule. It's like, don't just say I can't deal with this. Even if you can't deal with it, like don't just say I can't deal with it and then like go mid. Like that's not the play. Don't just give up and like be like, yeah, you'll be fine. I find myself doing that somewhat often. I shouldn't say often, but I do that not entirely rarely. A lot of times just because I'm tilted and it's just like I hate.
But just leaving lane.
Yeah, like I have a safe laner that's flaming me and I'm playing unranked and I'm like, you're getting aggro duoed and this is your problem to deal with, buddy. Like you're spam pinging me. Like this is your fault. Like you've made your bed, lay in it. Like that's just how it is. That's definitely a problem of mine. But the proper play there, of course, is not to leave.
Yeah. What's that phrase? It's do as I say, not as I do.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So you're telling everyone
that's
like,
definitely the case.
Don't do it, even though I sometimes do it. Don't.
It gets back to my New Year's resolution I was talking about, where I do a lot of things that I know are the bad decision, but it just feels right in the thing. It's like, I know I should be here helping you, but you're just such an incredible tool that I'm going to leave. I don't do it in ranked, but it definitely like it demotivates me, and I'm just like, I'm just going to leave. Like, this is your problem, dude. Like, figure it out.
Yeah. I think something that I find difficult as well is when I'm trying to zone someone, accidentally pulling all the creep aggro and then getting hit a bunch. That's something I'm guilty of all the time. That hurts, and then it's just such a waste of tangos and stuff. That's definitely something I'm trying not to do.
Yeah, I mean that's a problem. A good offlaner will put you in situations where you have to do that to zone them. That's something that, like, a lot of times you just run a problem where it's like, I can't zone this guy without pulling creep aggro, which means that guy's not going to get zoned. What you want to do in those situations is I just visualize a circle around each creep that is the size of their aggro range. And that's something you can only, like, learn by doing. And, like, you know, you just have to mess up a whole lot until you figure out, like, and you can imagine those circles. That's hard to deal with, honestly. But yeah, I would say visualize circles. Kind of like, God, we're talking about geometry so much on this freaking podcast network. We just envision circles that are the aggro range and try to stay out of them. Also, they changed. They changed the aggro timing. Like, it used to be, creeps used to look for somebody to hit. I think it was like every second. Now I think they do like every 2 seconds. So that you have windows where you can auto attack an opponent that the creeps will not aggro to you.
That must be really difficult to keep track of, though, right?
It is. That's why sometimes if you attack click an opponent, your creeps won't come to you. Is because you're just not hitting their register.
Okay.
That's
really
also something you just got to learn by doing.
Yeah. Yeah, the circles thing is a really good tip, though. I've never thought about that.
Yeah, shapes are great. Use them.
Yeah, shapes are great. Okay, so how long have we been going for?
Like an hour and 20 minutes. So maybe let's do like one short question.
Yeah, sure.
Let's see. Maybe I'll pick a short one.
Yeah, you pick one. Let's
see. New guy XLII sent us a bunch of questions. Let's see. What's one of the shorter ones? Let's see. All right. When you're playing an invisible hero, whether it's an ability or a shadow blade, or even just an invis rune, how do you deal with detection? So we've talked a lot about countering heroes by using detection, but if you are the invisible party, what you want to do is identify the kind of detection they have first, and then you have to act differently depending on what their detection is. So let's say you're playing Bounty Hunter and they only have dust. That means that you have freedom to move around so long as you remain invisible. But if they have only sentry wards, that means that you can escape more easily because they cannot chase you down because they don't have dust, and sentries are obviously immobile. So that's the first big one, is identify what kind of detection they have, and those are kind of some simple linear ways to play around detection. If they have a mix of detection, then similarly you have to kind of intuit where their detection is sentry ward wise, and then put yourself in situations where you won't just die when they dust you. It's kind of difficult. I would say, I mean, that's the simple answer. I don't even want to like think too hard about it. The simple answer is identify what kind of detection they have, because again, the simplest thing to do is say, all right, they have sentries, which means that I cannot go there, but I can go anywhere else because they've used all their sentries. And with dust, you can go to them, but you have to know that your escape is no longer like usable. And it's actually actively worse because dust slows you by like 10% when you're affected by dust if you were invisible.
Yeah. Would you ever like suggest to carry sentries around if you suspect they have sentries? Do you think do you think it's worth it if you're or do you think you should kind of just actually no, I guess you should, because I was gonna say like should you just tell your support and they'll go do it, but that's kinda don't if you need sentries, like that's why in like mid matchups where you know the enemy team is like a roaming bounty hunter, a roaming Ricky, that's why the bounty hunter buys a sentry ward, is to deward their sentry ward. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's hard, but a lot of times, one of the big things that helps me when I play Invis Heroes or when I play with Shadowblades. Granted, I hate Shadowblade. I'm not a Shadowblade player. A lot of times, what you can do is people are creatures of habit, right? And so the opponents will generally place their sentries in the same place over and over again. Or if you see they use dust on like your ally, like let's say you're playing one of these team comps where you have like multiple Invis heroes. If they've used dust, you know they can't use dust for another 60 seconds. Even if they still have dust, like the cooldown on dust is super long. So that's another way you can play around it. But I mean, people just it's actually amazing how frequently people just place sentries in the exact same spot every single time. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. We're all probably guilty of it, but
yeah, you get your
I have like my sentry
spots, right?
Yeah, like if I'm pushing high ground, I always place a sentry ward directly on the outside of the circle of the tier 3 vision because it gives you uphill invis vision and downhill. And I do that like clockwork, like bad turn of phrase. I do that basically every single time. And it's just, that's just my habit. And it's really effective. And it's not like they get dewarded that much, but it is definitely a habit where if somebody was to notice that I do that, it's very easy to deward.
Right, yeah. So if anyone ever goes against you in a queue somewhere or in a game or something, that you should know
where to find my sentries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to overcommit. A lot of time, I just really like Necrobook, and I will find myself building Necrobook on like weird heroes just because I'm like, man, they have one Invis hero. I'd really like to have True Sight. And it's like, well, I could have just bought like a gem or some dust or some sentries, but instead I'm going to invest like 5,000 gold into a Necrobook. And I just love that item.
I mean, it's pretty handy.
Yeah, once you can get it. It's also like, all right, I'm not going to have vision for the next 15 minutes, but eventually I'm going to have vision. And then they might kill it, and then I won't have vision anymore. But I'm always looking for an excuse to build a Necrobook.
Actually, I used to be really guilty whenever I was playing a Treant that I would buy wards at the beginning and then not buy wards and try and rush my ags. And everyone's like, oh, can you buy some wards? I'm like, but I'm going to get ags soon, it'll be fine. And that was such a bad idea.
A lot of people do that. Because
then you would die a bunch and then you would never get the ags. And then the game would end. So I stopped doing that. But yeah, I don't know. It can be so tempting, can't it, just to save up and not spend money.
Yeah, it is what it is. Another phrase I need to stop using. Yeah. I was about to say, but such is life. Oh my God, I'm going to die from and like other people are pointing out too. It's so hard to like avoid phrases. Anyway.
Maybe that's going to be, you said you didn't have a podcast New Year's resolution. Yeah. Maybe that should be it.
That will be it. Yeah, that's a good point.
Stop using the same phrases.
Yeah, I'll try to, it's like censorship, but for like innocuous phrases. That'll be my podcast goal, is to stop relying on filler phrases that I use too much. It's so hard. You don't think like we'll see. Everybody listening can keep me honest.
Yeah, we'll keep a tally every time you use it.
Yeah, we'll see if it works out.
All right, so let's close it out, shall we? Should we do some plugs?
Shall we?
All right, so you can follow us on Twitter at Fourth Spirit. You can follow Ursi at Ursinity. You can follow me at AupBeedub. And you can join our Discord, which is discord.gg/fourth. You can also support us on Patreon, which is patreon.com/Fourth Spirit. And for our patrons, the Dark Souls episode is out.
Oh, yes, it's super good.
Yeah. Did you enjoy making it?
It was fun.
I've watched most of it. It's pretty fun. It's pretty entertaining, I have to say.
There's like one highlight that's really good, but it's hard. That's my primary reaction. It's hard. We also today we put out the Patreon exclusive casual show, and Proud and I talked a bunch about the recording and about the Dark Souls experience, among other things. So it's fun. I'm looking forward to doing more of it, but it is hard.
And another way
the next
to support
episode will
the
be the
show,
end of the month.
Yeah. Okay. Another way to support the show is tell a friend, and leave an iTunes review. And if you have any questions, you could email them. Oh God, I actually don't have the email written down, and I forget this every single time. It's show@fourthspirit.com, isn't it? I'm always worried about saying the wrong email.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's better to be cautious than say the wrong email, so that some random person doesn't start getting Dota questions to their email.
Yeah. All right, so I think that's. I don't think I missed anything out, did I? Do you have any plugs?
Fourthspirit.com is our website. You can listen to all the shows there. Because most people,
that would be handy to know.
Most people listen to the shows on like a podcast app, but personally, like when I'm at work, I listen to them on the website. And the new website is a lot easier to compared to the old defensethepatients.com website. The new website is much simpler, like in terms of tools, because it's literally just our libsyn feed. So it's just like a bunch of boxes that like you hit play on. Like it's very minimalist. So that's how I listen to podcasts. Other than that, oh gosh, I don't know. There's probably something, but whatever. I figure people get all the plugs cumulatively. Like we probably miss a show, but over the course of listening to 4 episodes, they probably get everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm starting to kind of like get used to ads, but then at the end of the episode, I'm like, oh no, plugs. So I don't know.
Yeah, you're learning. You're doing much better than I was at the start. So I think we're safe in terms of plugs.
Actually, I was trying to think of a new kind of signing off catchphrase, but I still haven't thought of a good one yet about learning or something.
I got nothing. I'll be honest. I used all my creative brain cells to think of my initial one. Yeah, maybe it's got to come naturally. It's got to it's got to just like free flow. Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll get that next week.
maybe. We'll see.
All right. So, this is us signing off. Thanks for listening.
Bye.